watching Numbskull News, and today we're going to talk about some of these lawsuits. We're going to talk about a possible negotiated settlement between FSU, Clemson, and the ACC. First, though, it's interesting how Florida State and Clemson is going at it, because it's not the same exact lawsuit. That's been made clear. FSU, they're challenging the grant of rights directly. It's a frontal assault. But from the rear with the long knife comes Clemson. They're not worried about the grant of rights. They're not worried about any of that. They're not trying to rake ESPN over the coals or anything else. They're not trying to ruffle a bunch of feathers. They're not challenging the grant of rights. They're just saying once we leave the conference, it's over. You know, you don't get to keep our rights till 2036. They're challenging the long game. It's two different deals. But so the ACC is fighting somebody right in their face, and they got to worry about the guy behind them. This is why the ACC is going to lose. Now, let's talk about negotiated settlement. And everyone's talking about it. But I have a big question. Can the ACC negotiate a settlement if they don't know what ESPN is going to do? ESPN can pull the plug on that media deal. This is a fact. You can deny it all you want. It's a fact. They can pull out in 2027. If they don't agree to extend, they don't opt in, come February 1st of 2025, it is over. That deal ends in 2027. So that's a major problem for the ACC as far as negotiating, because if they negotiate some kind of buyout for FSU and Clemson, and they can go with their rights intact at whatever date, 2026, 2025, whatever year, then what? If ESPN opts out, then that kind of screws the entire conference come 2027. So if they know that ESPN is going to be around and that deal will still be in place till 2036, then yeah, I think they do a negotiated settlement. The problem is, would ESPN be interested in sticking around or keeping the ACC? That's a big freaking question mark. I don't think they will. Florida State and Clemson, that's most of the value of the ACC. It is a lot of content. I'm sure ESPN would like to keep a lot of that content. However, how much do they want to pay for it? Keep in mind, they only pay the Big 12 schools about $20 million a year. Fox takes care of the rest of it. So what are they willing to pay the ACC schools? Now, according to an article it's called the Daily Tar Heel. I wanted to use them. But according to them, they broke it down. The ACC schools, from their media rights deal, basically makes about $23.3 million a year. The rest of their money comes from the ACC network. What does ESPN want to do? Now, you can easily say, hey, they don't want to lose money from the ACC network. The problem is the carriage fees and all that, right? That's money in ESPN's pocket. But ESPN is going straight to consumer. All right. Eventually, the SEC network is going to be on a streamer. Eventually, it will be. I mean, just look at the landscape with ESPN. They're going streaming only. It's going to happen sooner than later. Now, they're going to keep all their ties with their linear networks. All right, because at some point, the money just doesn't make sense to stay. But what they're going to do, they're going to leave, and they're going to leave linear money on the table. Why would they do that? Because they don't want to be caught with their pants down. They'd rather jump early into streaming than do it late. This is about timing. So if they got to leave some money from their cable and satellite providers, fine. They will do that. Now, that means the ACC network sooner than later is going to be abandoned. So around 2027, that's probably a good deal for ESPN to go ahead and pull the plug. And then what do they do? They take the teams that they want, put them to the Big 12. Let them go to the Big 12. Well, they'll make $31.7 million apiece. Roughly, the payouts every year are about $50 million in the Big 12. That's not bad money. It's not SEC or Big 10, which are closer to $100 million or right at $100 million. But it's not bad. It's not bad cash at all. And that money's fixing to go up because you're going to make quite a bit more with the CFP. So you're talking closer to 60. And they're not going to pay for this abundance of teams to go to the SEC because they're not worth it. They're not throwing good money away doing that. Absolutely not. Florida State, they're worth it. Clemson, they're worth it. And that's probably all they'll pay for. No, they're not going to give your precious UNC. They're not going to give NC State. They're not Virginia, not Virginia Tech. None of them are worth $100 million a year. Or whatever it is, $70 million a year on your media rights in the SEC. Oh, they won't get that at first. They'll get half. They'll get 30 plus. Again, that's over $10 million more a year than they pay Big 12 schools. Why would they waste that when they don't have to? And they won't. And the SEC, I mean, from all reports, they are not super on board with further expansion. Even with FSU, even with Clemson, they're not super excited about it. If ESPN insists, they'll do it. They'll do it. If ESPN says, hey, we'll take care of you. Let's bring these guys in. It's good for business. They'll do it. But trust me, Texas and Oklahoma, that's coming in right now, they're not big on expanding. They're just not. They don't give two shits about it. And I know what you're saying. Well, they just got there. They have no voice. They have no say. These are two very powerful schools. Very important for the SEC to get these guys. Very important. They got a bigger say than what you think. Now, they can't go around swinging their big old D around right in your face. No, they can't do that right now. Right now. But when they speak, all right, when you have SEC meetings, and when they talk about something, when they say, well, we don't really like expansion, trust me, Alabama, Georgia, LSU, Tennessee, everybody's going to hear them. Whenever Texas and OU have an idea, have a thought, it will be taken seriously. That doesn't mean the conference is going to jump every time Texas and Oklahoma tells them to. I'm not saying that. But they're going to be taken very seriously because they're very, very powerful. And with their additions, that helps the SEC in the future be even more valuable and more powerful than they already are. And to lose them one day would really, really suck and be a big blemish on the SEC, and they don't want that. And it can actually cost them money. Because remember, Texas and OU haven't played one damn football game in the SEC. Not one game of any kind in the SEC yet. There's no loyalties there. They can easily tear their ass to the Big Ten and to Fox. Just over whatever. I'm not saying they'll do it, but that is a huge leverage play they have if they ever feel the need to pull that card out of the deck. They may not. They may not have to. It's probably something that's just understood. Greg Sankey's not an idiot. All right, the president of Alabama and Georgia and LSU, all these people in the SEC, these people are very smart. They've built this conference and supported the number one sport in football like a son of a bitch. And it has paid off in dramatic fashion. These people aren't stupid at all. They're very, people talk about Southern people like they're a bunch of morons. We ain't. The SEC people in the dirty South, they are not stupid at all. All right. They know business. They know the business of sports. They know the business of college football. They know what kind of ad UT and OU are. They know what that means. So when they talk, when they offer an opinion or a suggestion, it's going to be heard. It's not like they just brought in SMU, where they'd be like, shut up. Who gives a shit what you got to say? No. No. I mean, remember, they didn't even tell A&M that Texas and OU were coming. They did all that behind A&M's back. And A&M's a powerful university, but it ain't Texas. They hate to hear that shit, but it's true. They're not Texas. And Texas and Oklahoma together, they damn sure don't have that kind of power, that kind of stroke, those kind of political connections. They don't have that. Texas and OU together, holy shit, that's a powerful voting bloc. Very powerful. That's why SEC was like, we don't need the drama. We already know where A&M stands when it comes to Texas. We don't need to deal with that. Let's just get this done. All right. They wouldn't do that to Alabama. They wouldn't do it to Georgia. And trust me, they're not going to do it to Texas and OU in the future either. So just want to throw that little chunk out there. That, yeah, Texas and OU not liking expansion. By the way, that kind of fits with a lot of other programs, a lot of other presidents and ADs. A lot of these guys, they don't want a bunch of expansion. 4 teams, kiss my ass, ain't happening. Anything besides Florida and Clemson ain't happening. Notre Dame is just not going to happen, and they're not counting on it. And the SEC really doesn't give a shit. They don't need Notre Dame. Okay? There's been all this consternation. Notre Dame, Big Ten, they got to join the conference. Big Ten. The SEC can give a shit. Keep Notre Dame. Screw off. We don't care. We don't care. Because nowadays, Texas and OU is a bigger get than Notre Dame. I'm just saying they are. Notre Dame isn't what it once was. Texas or OU can win a title. Any given year, they can win a title. That's just the facts. That's how they recruit. That's the kind of money they put in to their athletic department. Hundreds of millions of dollars annually, regardless of the media contract they have. It doesn't even matter. But aside from all that, aside from all that, Florida State, Clemson, ACC, can they negotiate? It's tricky. It's tricky because even if ESPN is willing to stick around, they'll want a pay cut. They'll want a pay cut. They're not going to want to pay everybody more than they do the Big 12. And that's $20 million. You might say, well, everyone would probably be willing to give up 3.5 a year. Well, does everybody want to give up 3.5 million a year? Because if you go to the Big 12, you ain't got to give up anything. You say, well, what about the money from the ACC network? Well, that money's going down every year. You think you're going to get the same amount of money without Florida State and Clemson from that? You won't. Also, when they leave, that'll trigger a look-in. So that money that you're making, that extra money you're making from the CFP, kiss that shit goodbye. I don't know what it'll end up being, but you're going to be making less than the Big 12 does out of the CFP without Florida State and without Clemson. There's no doubt. Because that's literally all the playoff success you've had is Florida State and Clemson. Mostly Clemson in the playoff era. You're basically in a world of freaking hurt right now. It's almost damned if you do, damned if you don't. Because even if you go full bore with the lawsuits, which nobody wants that, ESPN doesn't want that, it's going to be a tough battle between the two. Even if the ACC wins one and loses the other, they're still screwed. Then what? You appeal, then you appeal again. You go to the Supreme Court, then what? Then what? And everybody all along is telling you, hey, negotiate this out. Do something. Negotiate it out. But if that means you're done in 2027, then you doom your conference. But how do you keep Florida State? And do you want to keep Florida State and Clemson in against their will? That sucks for everybody. That makes things very uncomfortable and very unstable. They're in a lose-lose here, folks. This is why I say there's no hope for the ACC, because they're kind of screwed regardless of which way they go. Regardless of which way they go. And, you know, as a Big 12 fan, am I cheering for that? In one hand, I am, because it helps my conference, the Big 12, because we will get teams. You don't have to believe it. I'm just going to rub it the hell in when it happens. Just because that's what I do. I'm a bit of a turd. Anyway, thanks for watching this crap, and I'll be back with some more crap later. Bye.